So go ahead and title today's paper, Subtracting Integers. Subtracting integers. But you know what? We're really not going to be doing that. Because we're going to be changing the subtracting. We're going to be changing the subtracting to adding. So really it's not subtracting integers, but it is. So looking at the illustration before, if I have two positives, and I'm supposed to take away 5 positives, well, I could take away these two right here, but I need to take away 5. So what do we do in that case? We go ahead and add 0 pairs. And so now I have 5 that I can actually take away. I can take away these 5 right here. And what do I have left? 3 negatives. But I had to add 0 pairs to do that. However, taking away 5 positive is the same thing as adding 5 negatives. See, either way it's going to go down, right? I take away 5 hot, it's going to go down. If I add 5 cold, it's going to go down, the temperature. So now looking at it this way, if I take I have 2 positives, add 5 negatives. Okay, so if I add 5 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I added 5 negatives. And if I do that, look at the 0 pairs I have. There's a 0 pair, and there's a 0 pair. That's 0. So what's left? One thing that's left is 3 negatives. So look at the answer. It's the same, isn't it? You could either subtract 5, or you could add -5. It's just easier to do this. It's easier to add the opposite. So that's why we choose to add the opposite. Change the subtracting to add the opposite. Add the opposite number. So we're going to do 8 problems. This is what it looks like when it's done. I've spread mine out. The reason why is in case you want to do models underneath it to help you find the answer. So here's a rule that we want to do. We want to change subtracting a number. Change subtracting a number into adding the opposite number. So whatever this number is, we're going to add the opposite of it. And I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. So just so you know, I'm doing 4 on this side and 4 on the other side. You can do it any way you want. So here's our first problem. It's 3 minus 4. 3 subtract 4. So you have 3, and then you're going to go ahead and add. We're going to change this, change subtracting a number into adding its opposite. So we're going to add, and then what's the opposite of 4? You know, if you want to, you could do this. The opposite of 4 is -4. So we're going to add -4. So it's 3 and -4. Now you may be able to do this in your head, but in case you can't or don't wish to, you could go ahead and there's 3 positives and 4 negatives You see how all of this right here makes one big 0 pair, right? That's gone. You're left with one negative. So think about it. You got 3 positives, 4 negatives. It's going to be more negative. It's going to be colder by 1 degree. Okay, here's our second problem. -4, take away 7. -4 minus 7. So I'm starting off with -4. Remember, we're going to change this. We're going to add the opposite. So if you want to, you could do this. Add the opposite. Change it to adding, and now it's opposite. -7. And we'll get the same answer. Now, maybe you could do this in your head. You have 4 negatives and 7 negatives. How much is 4 negatives and 7 negatives? It should be -11. Because if I did 4, again, you don't have to do the models. I'm just doing them to illustrate. 4 and 7 negatives makes 11 negatives. It went down 11 degrees. Okay, here's our third problem. 2, positive 2. Take away -3. Take away 3 negatives. 2 minus -3. 2 take away 3 negatives. Okay, so you start off with 2. We're going to change this to an adding. We're going to add the opposite. Add the opposite. This would be +3, right? And if you want to put parentheses, you can. You don't have to. Right? I'm adding the opposite. I'm adding the opposite. Well, that's just 2 plus 3. Hello. That was first grade. That's 5. Number 4. Okay, we're starting off with 8 negatives. But we're going to take away 2 negatives. 8 negatives, take away 2 negatives. But we're going to make this into an adding problem. So we're going to add, change this to an add, the opposite. The opposite of -2 is +2. Now, if you cannot do that in your head, mentally, then you would just go ahead and put some minuses and pluses down. And so if I did that, if I had 8 negatives, there's 4 more, so there's 8 negatives. And now I have 2 positives, plus and a plus. So what happens? These make a 0 pair. What do you have left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 negatives. So if it's -8 degrees, and then you add 2 hot ones, it's going to go up. It's going to go up to -6. So I'm just going to go up to the top of my paper on the other side, the right side. So this time we have three sets of cubes that we're adding. We have a 3, +3. We take away 4, and then we add 5. Now we don't take away. We're going to change subtracting to adding the opposite. Changes to add the opposite. So change subtracting. That's plus. The opposite of 4 is -4. Plus 5. All right, so what do you have? We have 3 positives, 4 negatives, 5 positives. Now, if you want to, you could add up the hot cubes and add up the negative cubes. Looking at the hot cubes, I have 5 and 3. That's 8, right? So I'm going to rewrite this. It's 8, +8. How about the negatives? 4 negatives. So if you have 8 hot and 4 cold, what is that going to leave us with? That's the same thing as 8 minus 4. The answer is 4. And if you were to do 8 and then 4 negatives, there's 6, here's 7, and here's 8. And you have 4 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice that these make 0. Right? That makes 0. 4 positive. But you should probably do this in your head. This is like 8 minus 4. Now, if you wanted to, you could have made the model 3 positive, 4 negatives, 5 positive, and then figure out the answer from there. It's okay. I just thought this would just be shorter. You don't have to do any models to these. Just whatever's shorter for you to get the right answer. Okay, number 6. Three positive, 4 negative, and then 5 negative. 3 take away 4, then take away 5. 3 take away 4, then take away 5. So you could rewrite that. Add the opposite. Add the opposite. So 3 positive, 4 negative, and then 5 negative. Now if you want to, you could put 3 positive, 4 negatives, 5 negatives, cross everything off, and get an answer. So you could do that if you want to. You could put all the models on there. Or if you want to, you have 3, you might be able to do this mentally. You have 3 positive, and you have 4 and 5, you have 9 negatives. Now you probably should be able, you can look at this and tell the answer, can't you? If it's positive 3 and you add 9 cubes, 9 ice cubes, you know it's going to be colder. By what? By 6. Now you don't have to model this, but I'm going to model it. If you have 3 positives, you have 9 negatives, and then you notice that these make a 0 pair. Excuse me. So that's gone. And what do you have? 6 negatives. All right, so there's just 2 problems left, 7 and 8, and here they are here. And I keep -3 because that's what I'm starting with.